Welcome to our evidence-based practice training on reinforcement. Today's learning objectives are: participants will be able to define and gain an awareness of CAPTAIN, AFFIRM, and EVPs. Participants will be able to understand positive, negative, and token reinforcement. Participants will also be able to describe the principles of effective reinforcement and identify steps for effective implementation. First, we will discuss and build an awareness of CAPTAIN, AFFIRM, and EVPs. We will define the acronyms for you in the next couple slides. What is CAPTAIN? First, CAPTAIN stands for California Autism Professional Training and Information Network. It is an interagency network based in California. CAPTAIN was created to support individuals with autism spectrum disorders, or ASD. CAPTAIN provides information, resources, and trainings on evidence-based practices, or EVPs. They emphasize how to use EVPs to assist students to access the California state standards and prepare them for college and career readiness. Even though they were developed for the ASD population, research shows that EVPs are beneficial for all our students. For more information, you can visit the CAPTAIN website at www.captain.ca.gov. The Autism Focused Intervention Resources and Modules, also known by its acronym AFFIRM, is a website that provides modules that are designed to help you learn the step-by-step process of planning for, using, and monitoring an EVP with learners from birth to 22 years of age with autism. Supplemental materials and handouts are also available for download from the site. To learn more about AFFIRM, the link is shown here on the slide. You can create a free account and explore all that AFFIRM has to offer. Evidence-based practices are a set of practices that are focused and have clear evidence of positive effects with children with ASD. Currently, there are 28 evidence-based practices that have been shown to be effective for addressing challenging behavior. These instructional intervention procedures are focused and backed by scientific research. For a practice to qualify as evidence-based, researchers provide information that shows it provides positive outcomes for people with autism spectrum disorders. EVPs can be utilized across all settings, including the home, clinic, therapy sessions, and most importantly, in schools.
Now let's focus on one evidence-based practice, reinforcement. Reinforcement describes a relationship between a behavior and its consequences. When a consequence is delivered, if a behavior increases, that consequence is considered a reinforcer. The practice of reinforcement is used to increase desired behaviors and skills. One way to remember reinforcement is to think of why we do things every day. Reinforcements are not only used with students with ASD, they are used in many circumstances. We all work for reinforcement. We will now talk about the difference between positive and negative reinforcement. Positive reinforcement is the act of adding something following the behavior that increases future probability of the behavior, such as giving a reward. For example, if a student is working on sitting on a chair, once the student demonstrates the desired behavior, immediately give them a reward. By doing this, students will work on a task or behavior or skill because they know they will receive what they want right after. This will increase the probability of the behavior in the future. Sometimes we confuse a negative reinforcement with a negative consequence. Let's look closer at this on the next slide. Reinforcement is contingent upon the demonstration of a behavior or skill. Reinforcement, whether it is positive or negative, increases behavior. Positive reinforcement is giving students something such as more computer time for demonstrating an appropriate behavior. Negative reinforcement takes away something. For example, you may give students a homework task to take away homework, something the student may want. We can give students a reward for following behavior or remove a task after behavior is shown. Punishment can actually decrease the desired behavior. At first, it may seem that students are responding to our expectation, but because punishment is not enjoyable, we will see that students' desired behavior actually decreases. For a student, it is disappointing to see something being taken away and can lead to more defiant behavior. If we punish students by giving them extra work or taking away recess, students lose motivation. When we teach our students skills and behaviors, we want to reward them for their efforts. Research tells us that with proper use of reinforcement, we can increase a desired or appropriate behavior skill. For example, first complete one math problem, then you get 2 minutes of iPad time. Research does not support bribes in helping with desired behavior or skills. Bribes come before children can practice desired skill or desired behavior. We want them to stop the inappropriate behavior so we can give them their reward before they actually try. This does not help increase desired behavior. It actually does the opposite. Once students receive what they want, they have nothing to work for. Let's practice recognizing the difference in reinforcement and bribery, because sometimes we think we're reinforcing when we're actually bribing. Number 1, dad gives toddler candy to get him to stop crying. Is it a reinforcement or a bribe? This is a bribe. The child received a reward without doing the act first. The candy came before the crying stopped. Number 2, teacher gives student a high five for getting the multiplication answer correct. Is this to reinforce or bribe? This is a reinforcement. The praise and high five follow the student's actions of getting the answer right. Number 3, a paraprofessional shows a student his favorite toy after he falls to the floor during a transition and offers the toy to the student to get him to do the transition. Is this a reinforcement or a bribe? This is actually a bribe. The desired behavior is the transition, so the student should not receive their favorite toy until they transition tantrum-free. Let's take a look at different types of reinforcers. A few ways to find out what would be the most effective reinforcer for a student is by sending a survey home, asking parents and guardians directly on what the student's interests are, and or observing the student closely to see what works. Consumables work for some students. This might be a quick snack, for example. It is important to know that items such as snacks do need to be used sparingly and faded out. Other reinforcers can include their favorite toy, talking about a topic of interest, taking a break, or doing their favorite activity. Be sure to use reinforcers that are age appropriate. It is so important to get to know your students as much as possible because it is essential for reinforcing desired behavior. There are 2 levels of reinforcers, primary and secondary. Primary reinforcement is a naturally occurring stimuli, something innate, like a reflex. It is a stimulus that is biologically important to an organism, such as food, water, sleep, shelter, safety, and pleasure. It leads to an involuntary response, such as recoiling, drooling, and trembling. Primary reinforcers are effective because they are biological and play a fundamental role in survival. While a primary reinforcer is innate, a secondary reinforcer is a stimulus that becomes reinforcing after being paired with a primary reinforcer, such as praise, treats, or money. Responding to the secondary reinforcer is a learned behavior, not a born reflex. When we hear of a token economy system, the token reinforcer falls under the secondary level. A child can receive tokens and accumulate enough to receive a big reward at the end. For example, a student may receive a token every time they sit correctly in their chair. Once 5 tokens are accumulated, The student can exchange them for a reward. We will now watch a video that models how to use reinforcement. As you watch, think about what type of reinforcement is being used, if it is positive or negative, and if it is a primary or secondary resource.
Are you finished?
Well, thank you. How thoughtful. Would you like a chocolate?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Oh, sorry, Sheldon. I almost sat in your spot.
Did you? I didn't notice. Have a chocolate.
Thank you.
You're here a lot now.
Oh, am I talking too much? I'm sorry. Zip.
Thank you. Chocolate?
Yes, please. Oh, hey, Kim. Yeah, you know what? Hold on. Let me take this in the hall. You'll never guess who they got to replace you with work.
Okay. I know what you're doing.
Really?
Yes. You're using chocolates as positive reinforcement for what you consider correct behavior.
Very good. Chocolate?
No, I don't want... Sheldon, you can't train my girlfriend like a lab rat.
Actually, it turns out I can.
Well, you shouldn't.
There's just no pleasing you, is there, Leonard? You weren't happy with my previous approach to dealing with her, so I decided to employ operant conditioning techniques, building on the works of Thorndike and B.F. Skinner. Yet by this time next week, I believe I can have her jumping out of a pool, balancing a beach ball on her nose.
No, this has to stop now.
I'm not suggesting we really make her jump out of a pool. I thought the bazinga was implied. I'm just tweaking her personality, just sanding off the rough edges, if you will.
No, you're not sanding Penny.
Are you saying that I am forbidden from applying a harmless, scientifically valid protocol that will make our lives better?
Yes, you're forbidden.
Bad, Leonard. You know, using positive reinforcement techniques, I could train that behavior out of her in a week.
No.
If you let me use negative reinforcement, I can get it done before we go to bed.
You're not squirting her in the face with water.
No, of course not. We're talking very mild electric shocks. No tissue damage whatsoever.
Forget it.
Oh, come on. You can't tell me that you're not intrigued about the possibility of building a better girlfriend.
I'm not. Penny's qualities, both good and bad, are what make her who she is.
You mean like that high-pitched, irritating laugh?
Yes.
You wouldn't prefer a throaty chuckle?
You're not changing how Penny laughs.
No, that would be incongruous. No, I was going to lower the whole voice to a more pleasing register.
Sorry, guys. That girl is freaky.
Come again?
Freaky.
Freaky?
Yeah, freaky.
Have a chocolate.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to make some warm milk and then turn in. I trust if you two are planning on engaging in amorous activities, you'll keep the decibel level to a minimum.
Of course.
Thank you.
These are so good.
Okay, we know that video is a little bit silly, but it gets the point across of how to use reinforcers. In this video, the reinforcement was a consumable, chocolate, and it was positive. It is a positive reinforcement because it was given to the person to increase the behavior. Chocolate is considered a primary resource because it is food. The EVP of reinforcement can be paired with another EVP like visual supports. For example, you can have a choice board with pictures of the rewards that the student can choose from. By having that visual for them to look at, you can quickly point to it to give them that quick reminder on what they are working towards. This helps them stay motivated and on task. Here are some different visuals to pair with reinforcement. Use a token board. Try a checklist or chart. A first then chart is also another visual that works well, especially for students who have a difficult time waiting for their reward. One side shows what they have to do first, and the other shows the reinforcement. We will now look at how reinforcement and visual supports can be paired together in the form of token economy and reinforcement menus. A token economy is a type of positive reinforcement where learners earn tokens which can be used to get desired reinforcers. Remember, in order to earn tokens, a learner must demonstrate appropriate skills and/or behaviors. Shown here is an example of a commonly used token economy, I am working for. The one shown here has 12 boxes, but a token board can vary in the amount of token boxes needed to earn the desired reinforcer. Students first pick out what they want to work towards earning. Then every time the student exhibits the desired skill and/or behavior, they earn a token to be placed on the board. Once the student earns tokens for all the boxes, they can exchange them for the item that they have been working for. It is also important to note that once a token is earned, you cannot take it away. It has already been earned for demonstrating behavior. Tokens are not to be used as a punishment. When using a token system, please consider the developmental level of the learner. If you work with younger children, toddlers and preschoolers, know that token economies may not be appropriate for them. They may be too young to cognitively understand the value of a token and need something more immediate. We will now watch a video that models how to use token economy reinforcement.
Joseph, look, each time you do a math problem, you're gonna get a happy face. 5 happy faces, we get a break, okay? All right, let's get started. Awesome, happy face. Perfect. I like it. Another one. 3 happy faces. Nice. That's 4. And one more. Yes, Joseph. High five. All right, break time.
I want to draw your attention to how the teacher established this token economy. He defined the expectations. The student must finish each math problem. He discussed what the token item would be, happy faces. He explained the amount of tokens, 5 happy faces, needed to access the reward, a break. Let's do a quick review activity. As the statement is read, decide whether a positive, negative, or token economy reinforcer is used. I am given to a student for being on task. What am I? The answer is token economy. Every time the student is caught being on task, he was given a reward. I am an undesired activity that is removed because the student did a great job staying on task. Negative. When we remove a job or task as a reward, that is negative reinforcement. I am given to the student for getting all 5 answers correct. Positive. Students complete the task and then get the reward.
In this section, Principles of Effective Reinforcement, we will go into detail about the effectiveness of reinforcement. Here's a list of key principles of effective reinforcement. 1, make it personal. 2, make it immediate and frequent. 3, use natural reinforcement and pair it. 4, have the right amount. And 5, make it earned. The first principle is make it personal. Allow students to choose their own rewards. We all work for different reinforcements. Whereas one child may want to work for iPad time, another may want to work for time with a sensory ball. You can also use a preference assessment. Many different preference assessments can be found online, including found in the Affirm modules. Allow for students to choose different reinforcements often. A reinforcer may work and then suddenly it doesn't. Let the students dictate what it is they want to work for. On the Affirm website, in the reinforcement module, you can download a positive reinforcer checklist. This checklist is used to find out about what types of reinforcers will help a student be successful in targeting a specific skill or behavior. Principles of effective reinforcement number 2, give reward immediately. This is especially true with younger children, and they should be allowed to receive their reward right after demonstrating the desired behavior because it's crucial when you're teaching a new skill. Making a student wait until the end of the day or end of the week does not allow a student to make that connection between the behavior skill and the reward. Additionally, remember frequency matters. If the reinforcement is random and not consistent, it is unlikely that desired behavior will be reinforced. Also, it is important to develop a fading plan once the desired behavior is learned. Fading is not completely withdrawing the reward suddenly. The purpose of reinforcement and fading is to teach the learner to generalize that behavior. The third principle of effective reinforcement addresses natural reinforcement pairing. This means that 2 reinforcers are delivered concurrently. A natural reinforcer is one that has a direct relationship to the behavior and occurs naturally in the environment. Examples of natural reinforcement can include, but is not limited to, praise, smiles, or even time to work or play with the teacher. It is also important to make sure you are also offering just the right amount of reinforcement. The reinforcement is equal to the task difficulty. If you offer the reward too much, this may lead to low motivation. For example, if you let a student play their favorite game all day, by the end of the day, there is a good chance they will no longer want to play that game. That causes the reinforcer to lose its power. It is important to make your rewards contingent on the target behavior or skill that the child is learning. Good behavior does not automatically equal a reward. Be sure to define ahead of time the target behavior and response you are expecting. Make sure that anyone that is working with that student is also clear on this. If there is an assistant or other service providers that work with the student, they should also be aware. The more often the student is rewarded for the target behavior, the more likely he or she will repeat it.
So far, we've built our awareness of Captain, Affirm, and EVPs, defined positive and negative and token reinforcement, described the principles of effective reinforcement, and now we'll discuss the steps for effectively implementing reinforcement. This checklist can be found on the Affirm website under the reinforcement module. It walks you through the whole process of implementing a reinforcer with a student. It starts with the planning process and takes you through to collecting new data and evaluating next steps. This checklist works for implementing a positive reinforcer, a negative reinforcer, or a token economy. This checklist is a great way to make sure that you are implementing a reinforcer with fidelity. Step 1, planning. During this part of implementation, you first determine where you should start with the student. In order to do this, you need to collect baseline data. For example, if the student's target behavior is staying in their seat during a lesson, first you need to know things such as how long can they stay in their seat, how often they get out of their seat, and when does this happen. Step 2, using. Once you have collected baseline data on the student's target behavior, it is then time to determine the level of performance you will require from the student for the reinforcer to be earned. Are you going to give the reinforcer every time the student performs the behavior or skill, or intermittently? Are you going to give the reinforcer based on frequency of a behavior or based on the amount of time a behavior occurs? It is very important to think all of this through because it helps with consistency and fidelity. Step 3, monitoring. After you have implemented the reinforcer, it is important to evaluate how it is working. If the behavior is improving, then you can assume that it is working. However, if it is not working, it's time to reassess potential reinforcers or reevaluate the skill and criteria you have set. Let's look at a few different implementation scenarios that include both problem and solutions. Pause the video and take a moment to read them. When you're done reading, push play to wrap up this professional development. Before we end, here's a slide with the resources that were used for this presentation. Thank you very much for joining us today. We truly appreciate your time.